I just spent 2 weeks testing 5 budget Dolby Atmos soundbars under $600, and the marketing lies are shocking. Every single box screams Dolby Atmos and immersive three-dimensional sound with fancy diagrams showing audio bubbles surrounding you. The reality? Most deliver subtle ceiling bounce at best and complete disappointment at worst. One system claiming 11 channels actually uses 2 physical speakers, faking everything through processing. Another advertises true height effects but distorts bass so badly that action scenes sound like broken speakers. Here's the uncomfortable truth the audio industry doesn't want you knowing. Cheap Atmos is marketing theater designed to sell mediocre soundbars by slapping premium technology badges on products that cannot possibly deliver the experience those badges promise. Before I expose exactly which systems are outright scams and which budget options actually work, hit subscribe and drop a like if you want honest testing that cuts through marketing hype. Tell me in the comments, do you own a budget Atmos soundbar right now? And are you actually hearing overhead effects or just louder regular sound? Let me explain what real Dolby Atmos actually is, because understanding the technology reveals why cheap implementations fail so spectacularly. Atmos is object-based audio where sounds are treated as individual objects that can be placed anywhere in three-dimensional space around you. Instead of mixing sound to specific channels like traditional 5.1 surround, filmmakers place sounds in virtual space, and your system renders those positions using however many speakers you have. A helicopter moves from front to overhead to behind you as a single audio object, rather than being mixed across multiple channels. The critical requirement for Atmos. Real Atmos needs height speakers that fire sound from above your listening position or bounce sound off ceilings to create the illusion of overhead audio. This requires either speakers mounted in or on your ceiling or upward firing speakers that bounce sound off flat ceilings to reach your ears from above. The height dimension is what separates Atmos from traditional surround sound. Without convincing overhead sound, you just have regular surround with marketing labels. Budget soundbars attempting Atmos face impossible physics. They're slim bars sitting below your TV trying to create sound from above using tiny upward firing drivers that bounce sound off your ceiling. This works only under ideal conditions. You need ceilings between 7 and 9 feet high that are flat and reflective. Vaulted ceilings, textured ceilings, or ceilings above 9 feet break the illusion because sound doesn't reflect properly to reach your listening position from the overhead angle. Most budget soundbars don't tell you this on the box. The marketing deception, here's where it gets dishonest. Dolby licenses Atmos technology to manufacturers, but the certification process doesn't require minimum speaker counts or performance standards. A soundbar with 2 tiny upward-firing drivers and aggressive DSP processing can get Dolby Atmos certification, despite delivering nothing close to the immersive bubble that premium systems create. Manufacturers exploit this by emphasizing Dolby Atmos on packaging while using the absolute minimum implementation that technically qualifies. The channel number inflation is even worse. Budget soundbars claim configurations like 5.1.2 or even 11.1.4. That sound impressive until you look inside and find maybe 6 actual speaker drivers total. They're counting virtual channels created through processing rather than discrete physical speakers. A soundbar claiming 11.1.4 might have 2 left drivers, 2 right drivers, 1 center, and 1 upward firing driver per side. That's 6 speakers creating 11 virtual channels through software trickery. This isn't the same as true discrete channels with dedicated amplification and drivers, but marketing makes them sound equivalent. The Hisense HS2100 disaster. Let me start with the worst offender. The Hisense HS2100 selling for around $250 and claiming 5.1.2 Dolby Atmos with wireless subwoofer. The marketing promises true Atmos immersion and cinema-quality three-dimensional sound, with graphics showing sound enveloping you from all directions. The reality is a soundbar with weak, barely noticeable height effects, and a subwoofer that distorts horribly above moderate volume. I tested the Hisense with the Dolby Atmos demo trailer featuring rain effects that should convincingly fall from overhead, and helicopters that fly above you with clear directionality. On the Hisense, the rain sounds like it's coming from the soundbar in front of you, with maybe a hint of ceiling reflection if you really concentrate and convince yourself it's there. The helicopters have zero overhead presence. They move left to right across the soundbar, but never convincingly rise above the screen plane. This is stereo sound with processing, not three-dimensional Atmos. The subwoofer is arguably worse than the fake height effects. It produces boomy, undefined bass that overwhelms everything during action scenes. Explosions become muddy rumbles that obscure dialogue and effects, rather than adding impactful low-frequency punch. The wireless connection between soundbar and sub occasionally drops, causing audio gaps mid-movie that completely break immersion. For $250, the Hisense HS2100 delivers worse performance than a quality $350 non-Atmos soundbar would provide. You're paying extra for marketing badges that don't deliver actual value. The Vizio budget trap. Vizio makes several budget soundbars in the $200 to $300 range, claiming Dolby Atmos or surround certification. These systems use aggressive virtualization to create the illusion of surround sound without physical rear speakers. The marketing emphasizes surround certified and shows diagrams of sound wrapping around the room. The technology is psychoacoustic processing that manipulates frequency response and timing to trick your brain into perceiving sounds as coming from beside or behind you. In practice, this works marginally in very small rooms where you're sitting close to the soundbar. The processed audio creates some sense of width and space beyond the physical soundbar location. But it's not true surround sound with discrete localization. You cannot pinpoint specific effects behind you or clearly track sounds moving around the room. It's stereo with extra ambiance, which is fine for the price if marketed honestly, but disappointing when sold as genuine surround or Atmos immersion. The dialogue clarity on budget Vizio systems is particularly problematic. The aggressive processing that attempts to create virtualized surround muddles the center channel where dialogue lives. Voices sound artificial and recessed, forcing you to boost volume or enable dialogue enhancement modes that introduce other artifacts. For TV shows and movies where understanding every word matters, this is a deal breaker regardless of Atmos badges. The Sony HTS2000 Honest Budget Option. Here's where I give credit to a budget system that works within its limitations honestly. The Sony HTS2000 at around $500 is a 3.1 soundbar with upward-firing drivers for basic Atmos. Sony doesn't claim 11 channels or room-filling immersion. They position this as entry-level Atmos that adds subtle height dimension to improve on regular soundbars. The marketing is realistic about what you're getting, and the product delivers on those honest promises. The HT-S 2000 produces noticeable ceiling bounce in appropriate rooms with 7 to 8 foot flat ceilings. Rain effects and Atmos content sound like they're coming from slightly above the soundbar rather than purely forward. Helicopters have some vertical movement rather than being locked to screen height. It's not the dramatic overhead bubble that premium systems create, but it's genuine height dimension that makes movies more engaging than flat stereo soundbars provide. Dialogue clarity is excellent with a dedicated center channel that keeps voices natural and intelligible. The built-in bass is adequate for TV shows and lighter content, though action movies expose the limitations of not having a separate subwoofer. The Sony costs $500 and delivers performance appropriate to that price without lying about capabilities. If you want budget Atmos, this is how it should be done with realistic expectations and honest marketing rather than fake channel counts and impossible immersion promises. The Klipsch Flexus Core 200 expandable approach. The Klipsch Flexus Core 200 at $550 takes a different approach by offering a 3.1.2 soundbar designed for future expansion. You get upward-firing Atmos drivers and decent built-in performance, but Klipsch positions this as the foundation of a system you'll build over time. Add their wireless subwoofer and surround speakers later, transforming the Core 200 from basic Atmos to legitimate home theater. The initial soundbar delivers good Atmos bounce similar to the Sony, with Klipsch's characteristic dynamic sound that makes action scenes engaging. The limitation is the same as all soundbar Atmos implementations. You're bouncing sound off ceilings and hoping room acoustics cooperate. In ideal rooms, it works well enough to notice. In non-ideal rooms with high or irregular ceilings, the height effects disappear and you're left with a good 3.1 soundbar minus the Atmos you paid extra for. The value proposition depends on your expansion plans. If you actually buy the wireless sub and surrounds later, the Klipsch becomes a complete system rivaling integrated packages. If you never expand and use just the soundbar, you're paying $550 for performance that $400 non-Atmos soundbars match. The expandability is legitimate value for people who plan to build their systems, but it's wasted money if you expect the soundbar alone to deliver room-filling Atmos without additional speakers. The JBL budget wireless problems. JBL's budget soundbars in the $400 range offer wireless rear speakers for genuine surround sound, which sounds great until you encounter the wireless reliability problems users consistently report. The detachable battery-powered surrounds or wireless satellite speakers suffer from connection dropouts, audio lag, and sync issues that ruin the immersion they're supposed to provide. When the wireless works, you get decent surround effects. When it drops out mid-movie, you're troubleshooting technology instead of enjoying content. The claimed height effects on JBL budget systems are minimal to non-existent depending on model. Some use upward-firing drivers that produce subtle ceiling bounce. Others rely entirely on processing to virtualize height, which doesn't work. The marketing doesn't clearly differentiate which JBL models have actual height speakers versus virtual height, leading buyers to purchase systems expecting Atmos overhead effects that physically cannot exist given the speaker configuration. For $400, the JBL delivers okay value when the wireless actually works reliably. The problem is that reliability varies between units and rooms, creating a gamble where you might get good performance or might get frustrating glitches. Premium systems from Samsung or Sonos cost more but deliver consistent wireless performance that justifies the price premium if you need rear speakers. What real Atmos requires? Let me explain what you actually need for convincing Dolby Atmos that delivers the immersive bubble experience marketing promises. You need discrete height speakers, meaning actual speakers firing from above your listening position. This means either ceiling-mounted speakers wired to your receiver, height modules sitting on top of front speakers firing upward, or upward-firing soundbar drivers and soundbars specifically designed for Atmos with adequate power and positioning. You need appropriate rooms with reflective ceilings at proper heights for upward-firing implementations. 7 to 9 foot flat ceilings work. Higher or irregular ceilings break the reflection angles needed. You need proper calibration using room correction systems that measure your space and optimize speaker output for your specific acoustic environment. Budget soundbars skip this, relying on generic tuning that works poorly in most real rooms. You need adequate power and amplification to drive height speakers properly. Premium systems dedicate specific amplifier channels to height speakers with independent level control. Budget soundbars share amplification across all channels, compromising dynamics when multiple speakers play simultaneously. And you need quality source material with actual Atmos soundtracks, not regular surround sound that's being upmixed to fake Atmos. The Samsung Q990D Reality Check. For contrast, let me describe what real premium Atmos sounds like so you understand the gulf between budget systems and proper implementation. Samsung's HW-Q990D at $1,500 includes wireless subwoofer, wireless rear speakers, and 4 dedicated height channels in the main soundbar. This system creates a legitimate audio bubble where sounds convincingly move around and above you. Play the same Atmos demo trailer on the Samsung that sounded flat on the highs ends. The rain falls from distinctly overhead, creating that ceiling effect where you instinctively look up. Helicopters rise from screen height to overhead, then continue behind you through the rear speakers. Ambient effects like birds flying past or atmospheric sounds envelop you from all directions, including above. This is what Atmos is supposed to deliver and what budget systems promise but cannot achieve. The cost difference reflects real engineering. The Samsung uses 19 physical speakers across all components with dedicated amplification and sophisticated DSP. The Hisense uses maybe 6 speakers with shared amplification and aggressive processing. You cannot engineer a $1,500 experience into a $250 product regardless of marketing claims. The performance gap is real and unavoidable given the price constraints. The upgrade path that works. If you're working with budget constraints but want legitimate Atmos eventually, here's the smart approach. Start with a quality non-Atmos soundbar or 3.1 system in the $400 to $500 range that excels at dialogue clarity and basic surround effects without fake Atmos labels. Get used to that baseline performance. Then, save for a proper Atmos upgrade later when you can afford a system with wireless rears and actual height implementation. Starting with cheap fake Atmos sets wrong expectations and wastes money on marketing features that don't work. A $400 soundbar without Atmos claims often sounds better than a $400 soundbar with fake Atmos because the non-Atmos version focuses resources on speakers and amplification rather than wasting money on certification badges and upward-firing drivers that produce minimal benefit. Sony's HT-S2000 is the rare budget Atmos option worth considering because it's honest about limitations and executes the technology competently within constraints. The calibration and setup reality. Even legitimate Atmos systems fail without proper setup and calibration. You need to connect via HDMI EARC to your TV for lossless Atmos signal pass-through. Optical cables don't support full Atmos bandwidth, limiting you to compressed surround formats. You need to set your device and TV to bitstream audio output rather than PCM. This passes the Atmos signal directly to your soundbar for decoding rather than having the TV decode it first and lose metadata. You need appropriate listening distance relative to screen size. Sitting too close or too far changes how you perceive sound localization and overhead effects. Budget soundbars don't help you optimize this. They ship with minimal instructions and expect you to figure out placement and settings yourself. Premium systems include calibration microphones and automatic optimization, but budget systems skip these features to hit price points, leaving performance on the table for users who don't know how to manually optimize settings. The crossover setting matters enormously for bass performance. Set the subwoofer crossover to 80 Hz to send low frequencies to the sub while keeping mid-range and treble in the soundbar. Many budget systems default to crossovers that either send too much to the sub, making everything boomy, or too little, leaving the sub underutilized. Manually adjusting this in settings improves performance dramatically, but requires knowledge most buyers don't have. The bottom line on cheap Atmos. Budget Dolby Atmos under $600 is marketing theater in 90% of cases. Manufacturers exploit loose certification requirements and consumer confusion to sell mediocre soundbars as premium immersive audio experiences. The reality is subtle ceiling bounce at best in ideal rooms and completely fake virtual processing at worst. Most buyers would be happier with honest 3.1 soundbars costing less that excel at dialogue and basic sound quality rather than promising and failing to deliver Atmos. The rare exceptions are Sony HTS2000 and possibly Klipsch Flexus Core 200 with future expansion plans. These deliver honest budget Atmos that works within clear limitations at appropriate price points. Everything cheaper than $450 is suspect, and most products in the $200 to $350 range are outright scams hiding terrible sound quality behind Atmos badges that mean nothing when implemented this poorly. If you have $600 for audio, spend it on a premium 3.1 soundbar like Sonos Arc, or spend $800 on something with wireless rears like Samsung's mid-tier options. Skip the cheap Atmos entirely unless you're specifically buying the Sony HT-S2000 knowing exactly what you're getting. The marketing lies exposed here reveal an industry more interested in selling badges than delivering experiences, and your wallet deserves protection from that dishonesty. If this investigation exposed marketing scams that save you from wasting money on fake Atmos, hit like, subscribe for more honest audio testing, and comment which budget soundbar you almost bought before watching this.